It was a warm Saturday morning when Raj suggested we escape the city for a while. His smile, full of playful mischief, lit up as he held out a small picnic basket and said, "I want to take you somewhere special, just us, no distractions." After a year of dating filled with late-night calls, street food dates, and promises of forever, I had come to trust him completely. So, without hesitation, I climbed onto the back of his bike, wrapped my arms around his waist, and let the wind carry us into the unknown. We rode for hours through winding roads, past golden fields and quiet stretches of farmland. Finally, we reached a small village nestled at the foot of gentle hills. It was simple but beautiful, unbothered by time. Cows wandered lazily near haystacks, children played barefoot along narrow paths, and women with bright scarves balanced, pots on their heads, smiling as we passed. Raj led me to a quiet patch of land near a stream where the grass was soft, and the breeze smelled of wildflowers. "This place," he whispered, laying down a blanket, "was my childhood escape. I used to come here with my grandfather." We unpacked the basket, sandwiches, mangoes, and his homemade lemonade. I laughed as Raj tried to swat away a bee, only to spill lemonade on his shirt. The sun overhead glowed softly, filtering through the trees like golden silk. We talked about everything, our dreams, our families, even silly childhood fears. It felt like the kind of moment you tuck away forever. Just across the stream, a shepherd herded goats along the bank. He was older, with a weathered face and sharp eyes that flicked in our direction from time to time. Dressed in a traditional dhoti and a faded scarf, he carried a wooden staff and moved slowly, deliberately. I noticed his gaze lingered a little. Too long, but I brushed it off as harmless curiosity. We were, after all, outsiders in this quiet place. Raj noticed him too. "Don't mind him," he said with a casual shrug. "Villagers always get curious when they see city folks hanging around." I nodded, though a quiet unease settled at the back of my mind. Still, Raj's laughter was soothing, and I didn't want to spoil the day with irrational thoughts. As the sun dipped lower, he stood up suddenly. "I'll be right back," he said. "There's a fruit stall just down the lane. I'll grab us something fresh." "Okay," I replied, watching him disappear beyond the trees. Alone now, I leaned back on the blanket, letting the rustle of leaves and the distant bleating of goats lull me into peace. But even as the breeze whispered comfort, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching me. The quiet of the village had shifted, just slightly. Something about the air had changed, and I was about to find out why. The breeze stirred gently as I sat alone, eyes following the goats that grazed lazily near the stream. The distant rustle of leaves and occasional bleat of an animal gave the illusion of calm, but inside a peculiar tension had begun to rise. I tried to focus on the rhythm of nature, on the hum of insects and the cool grass beneath my palms. But something felt off. A crunch of footsteps snapped my attention. I turned instinctively. It was the shepherd. He approached slowly, the wooden staff in his hand tapping lightly against the earth. Up close, his face was more lined than I'd realized, etched with years of sun and grit. His eyes were unreadable, dark and deliberate. A thin, uninvited smile tugged at his lips. "Nice day," he said in a raspy voice, nodding toward the open sky. I gave a polite, wary nod. "Yes, it is." He didn't move away. Instead, he lingered a few feet from the edge of the blanket, eyeing the leftover food and the camera beside me. "You're not from here," he observed, almost as a challenge. I sat up straighter. "Just visiting. My boyfriend went to get fruit." "Ah, your boyfriend," he repeated slowly, as though tasting the word. I glanced toward the path Raj had taken. Still no sign of him. The shepherd bent down slightly, resting his hand on his knee. "City girls are different," he muttered. "Pretty, bold, but they don't understand villages. Not really." I stiffened. "I think I'm fine here." He didn't move. His smile faded into something more calculating. "You shouldn't be alone," he said, stepping forward, just slightly, but enough to feel invasive. My heart thudded. I gripped my phone tighter, though I wasn't sure what I'd do with it. "I'm not alone," I said firmly. "My boyfriend will be back any minute." For a second, our eyes locked. The weight of his stare pressed on me like heat. Then a sharp voice called out, "Hey!" Raj. He emerged from the trees holding a small paper bag of fruit, his jaw tight as he walked briskly toward us. The shepherd straightened slowly, his gaze flicking between Raj and me. Without a word, he turned and ambled back toward his goats, his pace unhurried, as though nothing unusual had happened. Raj dropped the bag on the blanket and crouched beside me. "What did he say? Did he touch you?" "No," I said quietly, still shaken. "But he was too close? And strange?" Raj glanced over his shoulder, jaw clenched. "He's just a crazy old man. Don't worry about it." But his voice lacked conviction, and his hands trembled slightly as he handed me a slice of mango. I didn't say anything more. I just stared at the trees where the shepherd had disappeared, the air around us now heavy with something unspoken. For the first time that day, I wanted to go home. The ride back to the city was quiet. Raj kept one hand steady on the throttle while the other occasionally reached back to touch my knee, as if silently checking that I was still there. I didn't say much. My thoughts were tangled, looping through fragments of the encounter with the shepherd, his words, his stare, the deliberate slowness of his steps. But more than that, it was Raj's reaction that gnawed at me. There had been something in his eyes, not surprise, but recognition. That night, after a cold shower and a failed attempt at sleep, I sat on my bed and opened Raj's social media profiles. I wasn't looking for anything specific, just trying to quiet the noise in my head. But then I found it. An old photo posted nearly 5 years ago, buried beneath dozens of filtered sunsets and gym selfies. In the picture, Raj stood smiling beside a younger version of the same shepherd. The caption read, "Summer with my uncle in the village." My breath caught. Uncle? A chill ran through me. I stared at the photo, zooming in on the man's familiar eyes, his crooked smile. There was no mistake. Raj had known him. Knew who he was. Knew his nature, because why else would he lie? I confronted Raj the next day. We sat across from each other in his apartment, the air thick with unease. "Why didn't you tell me he was your uncle?" I asked, my voice steady but cold. Raj looked away. "I didn't think it mattered." "Didn't matter?" He approached me like he knew I was alone. He made me feel unsafe. "And you just stood there and said he was some harmless villager?" Raj rubbed his face with both hands. "He's my mom's brother. We're not close. He was troubled, okay? He used to drink, had issues years ago. I thought maybe he'd changed." "So you brought me there to test if he had?" I asked, incredulous. "Why would you risk that?" "I didn't think he'd actually do anything," Raj snapped. "I just wanted to believe the past was behind us." I stood up, the weight of betrayal pulling at my chest. "You should have warned me, given me a choice. But you let me sit there, alone, in front of a man you knew could be dangerous." He didn't have an answer, and that silence said everything. That evening, I sat on my balcony, staring out at the city skyline that now felt unfamiliar. The man I trusted had made a selfish choice, one that endangered me, not physically but emotionally, profoundly. The betrayal wasn't in the shepherd's approach. It was in Raj's silence, in his decision to protect an old memory over my well-being. Something had broken, not with noise or drama, but with the quiet sting of truth. And I wasn't sure it could be fixed. The days that followed were filled with silence, long, aching silences that replaced the warm conversations Raj and I once shared. I stopped, replying to his messages. He tried to call, left voice notes apologizing, explaining, justifying. But each word felt like sand in my mouth, dry, empty, unconvincing. I needed space to think, not just about him, but about myself, about why I had trusted so easily, why I ignored my gut feeling, and why betrayal from someone you love doesn't come with warning signs. It comes dressed as a picnic in the countryside. One evening, Raj showed up at my doorstep. He looked tired, his eyes bloodshot, his voice softer than I'd ever heard it. "I just wanted to talk," he said. "Please." I let him in, but I stayed standing. There was distance between us now that couldn't be crossed by footsteps. He took a deep breath. "You're right. I should have told you. I was ashamed of him, ashamed of my past. I thought I could separate that part of my life from you, from us. But I was wrong. I put you in a position you didn't deserve." I folded my arms. "It wasn't just a mistake, Raj. It was a betrayal. You looked me in the eye and let me feel safe when you knew I wasn't. That's not love. It's manipulation." He swallowed hard, tears forming at the edges of his eyes. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I just didn't want to lose you over something I thought I had under control. And that's exactly why you lost me," I said, my voice cracking. A long pause settled between us. "I love you," he whispered. I looked at him. This man I had once imagined a future with. But now all I could see was a web of choices, spun from fear, pride, and secrecy. Love, real love, didn't look like that. "I believe you," I said softly, "but love isn't always enough. Trust is what keeps love alive, and you buried mine in silence." He nodded slowly, wiping his face as he turned toward the door. "I'll never forgive myself for this," he said. "I hope you do," I replied, "because one of us needs to heal." And with that, he left, quietly, respectfully, like someone finally understanding the weight of what they'd done. Months passed. I began journaling again, rediscovering my voice in the pages I had neglected. The pain didn't vanish overnight, but it taught me something valuable. That love, even when broken, can be a mirror, showing us what we deserve, what we should protect, and what we must leave behind. The village, the shepherd, the picnic, they became memories, chapters in a story I never expected but needed to live. Because sometimes, the deepest betrayal leads us not to ruin, but to clarity. And in that clarity, I found myself again,